It's Sports by the Book at the South Point Studio. Here's Jeff Parles.
Welcome in. It's Sports by the Book. We're happy to be with you as always. It is a football Friday, the second Friday of December. How about that? December 8th already. Just you blink your eyes, and if we were other regions of the country, we'd have snow. Thankfully, we don't see that here.
You know what the second Wednesday of December?
Go ahead.
I get my Social Security.
Oh, that's
big. A couple dimes. What the hell?
I was going to make another joke, but I didn't want Vinny to run me off the set.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's enough.
Okay.
There's enough age-sensitive remarks
at some point. Yeah.
Come on, man.
It's a different look football Friday for us today.
Yeah.
Only one FBS game this weekend. That's, of course, the Army-Navy game, which is in Foxborough, Massachusetts this year, which is interesting.
Whatever.
That's usually not in the rotation. There also are, as Chris, you brought this up earlier in the week, a whole collection of FCS games in the FCS playoffs, which, based off your reaction, we're going to get to that in a second.
We got great business. Go ahead.
And then, of course, all of the NFL games here today. But let's first start. You know what? As we all expected, we're starting the show with Furman and Montana, Chris, because that is a football game tonight.
Yeah.
Of course, Montana, your family up there, right by the.
My daughter just got accepted into the doctorate program at Montana.
At Missoula, Montana, right?
In Missoula,
That's
not Montana State, in Missoula.
So the Grizz, taking on the Paladins of Furman tonight, are 17-point favorites to open the weekend. And based off your reaction, these games are doing great action for you.
Well, this
guys.
one tonight, I'm getting great two-way action. We were it's a toggler, 17 and 17 and a half.
As we expected,
great
yes.
two-way action. Well, I said, I told we usually don't put them up till day of the game, but I told my guy Joe Holler, I said, let's put them up early. I said, we got so many people, and look at the lineup: Montana, South Dakota State, North Dakota State, South Dakota, and Idaho. Well, in case you haven't noticed, Jeff, we have the rodeo going on, and we have all these people here from those states in particular, and they want to come in and bet their teams. So, I don't know. We were off on a couple numbers, and a couple other numbers we did okay on. But they're up and bettable, and the action's been great. The interest is even better than the action. But even though a lot of people coming up betting their $10 and $20 bets, and God, I love it. I mean, you can't even walk through this place right now; it's so crowded.
I love that Italian town, Missoula.
Yeah,
you heard the famous dish, pasta Missoula.
Okay, I'm going to give you another. I'm sorry, the Italians, but one of the best gyros to you.
Oh, I know.
American
I know.
people.
Gyros. I know.
Yeah, I know.
The gyros, the ball that Daisuke Matsuzaka threw when he was in baseball.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is in Missoula. I mean,
Really?
Greek family owns it. I've had it a couple of times. I talked to
You give it a rating that's good enough for us.
I'm telling you right now, when I'm in Missoula, it's one of the first places I go to. I wish I knew the name of the place. It's called like the Athenian or something like that.
Wow.
Anyway, I apologize for not knowing, but it's a great gyro place in Missoula, Montana.
And I bet you Chrissy's got a similar standard for me. Always the games are on there too, right, Chrissy?
I've only been there in the daytime, Vincent. So
knowing
my people,
I know.
I would say they're probably
no question. Always frequent. It's got to have good food, and the owner's got to be in action. Very key.
Well, there's plenty of Greeks in action.
I know that. I know that for sure. The other FCS games this weekend, we'll just hit these real quick. Tomorrow, Villanova at South Dakota State. Throw out the record books when those teams play. South Dakota State was like minus 190 before this
they
tournament
are
to win it.
supposed to be, just awesome. I haven't followed the FCS that closely this year. I do follow the Montana and Montana State team, so I follow the Big Sky. But I'm not sure what conference South Dakota State's in. But they are
same one as North Dakota State.
They are awesome, supposedly. And you know what? Good for them. God bless. I think that's fantastic.
I've got South Dakota State in my top 35.
Do you really?
The power rating.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe that.
They're good. They're legit.
I forget who it was. Someone who I don't remember if it was one of the guys from the Westgate or if it was someone else who was tweeting about that had them similarly ranked to what Vinny has of a top 40 team in the FCS level.
Interesting.
With the Jackrabbits of South Dakota State. North Dakota State beat Montana State in heartbreaking fashion for the Bobcats. A PAT blocked in overtime.
To end your
season at home.
Brutal.
The Bison are road favorites at South Dakota. This is actually an interesting one because the Coyotes actually beat the Bison in the Fargo Dome earlier this year.
Oh, is that right? Look at you doing your homework. Fargo doing it.
I actually am going to bet the Coyotes in this game.
Are you really?
Going to see if we get a 7, which
oh, geez, we just went to 16.5 with Montana.
Chrissy.
We got a bet on Furman.
There we go.
We're sweating that 17 middle.
That would be pretty good.
I think Mr. Garner could overcome it.
I think so. And then the last one, again, another one. If you throw out the record books, Albany going to Idaho at the Kibbe Dome.
That's a hell of a trip, I got to tell you.
Yeah.
The Great Danes of Albany.
Oh, that's an amazing one. But 4.5. Obviously, the Great Danes. If it's only 4.5 with an Idaho team that was quite good at the FCS level this year, only 4.5. And that.
Remember John Freeze by any chance?
Not a name I know.
Pretty a good quarterback at that division. I think he was a 6th-round draft choice. Big, strong kid. Didn't really make it in the pros. Hung around for a couple years. I saw him play at Nevada a couple times when Nevada was in the Big Sky. And he was a hell of a player. Like I said, didn't make it in the pros. I was kind of rooted for him, but lasted a few years in the NFL.
All I will say with these games, they're always fun. And who knew that more than a 14 playoff would work, right, Chris?
Imagine that. Well, Jeff,
Shocking.
the other thing we said about the basketball in these leagues, these quote unquote lesser leagues, these kids play till their senior season. And that's what I think that really makes the football so good and competitive, and makes the basketball the same thing. These kids, they know how to play. They're actually kind of in relative terms seasoned veterans when they get into this level.
When we book these games during the season, right, Chris? It's much more professional money. I mean, now with the rodeo, Chrissy brought up a terrific point about how a lot of the folks from that area are here. They ask for these games too, and not only to bet them, but obviously to watch them.
Yeah, right.
It's important for them. They have their relatives and friends on these teams too. So there are certainly opportunities during the season, and pro bettors will migrate to these. But now we've got a nice mix of the pros, but actually more public money gets involved with these games during the playoffs, which is great. And I think it is a precursor from certainly a format standpoint, to what we're going to see next year.
By the way, before we go on, let me just echo that these games are on ESPN and ABC and things like that. I mean, these are national games.
Yeah.
By the way, you weren't alone, because other books in town obviously just took a whole bunch of money on the Paladins, because even a 15.5 just popped in one shop.
I have to root for my daughter's school.
Yeah, there you go. You need the Grizz by a bunch. Tonight in Missoula for that FCS game. All right, the only FBS game of the weekend, Army-Navy up in Foxborough. Hey, Bill Belichick's the guest picker on game day. You ready for that, Chris?
Is he really?
Yes. Well,
he's a veteran too. He's served in the military.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, good for him.
Yep,
really. God bless him. And wasn't saying too much nice about him last night.
We'll get to that game in a little bit, but I
God bless him now. I'll get to him in a minute.
Yeah, but Army-Navy, winner of this game gets to win 6. So obviously, big deal for the winner, more so than just beating your biggest rival. Last year was the first time this game went over in 20 years. Thank you, overtime.
Yeah.
With that one a year ago.
Yeah. Would it surprise you to see 14-14 here? Too?
Not at all. Army's 2.5. Total's 28. Toggled between 28 and 27.5.
Yeah. We toggle between 2.5 and 3 as well.
But I like the Black Knights. I think they're the better football team. Yeah. But as you know, Chris, when these service academies play each other, you can get oddball results. We saw it already earlier in the year where Army went to Colorado and just pummeled Air Force, sending Air Force on a downward spiral in their
first loss. Right?
They never recovered from it.
They didn't win another game after that. Yeah. And now Army 2.5 against Navy again. Winner gets to win number 6 on the season.
I'll tell you why that's big. Not just for these two teams, but for any teams. You get to have those extra practices before spring, so you really get to work some things out. So. It is a big deal, not just to get to the bowl game, but and it enables your coaches to see their guys play one more time, in practice, and kind of get ready for spring football. It's a big deal, and it means a lot to these kids and to the programs to get to that 6 wins.
Yeah, it's important too, and let's face it, a lot of these players, particularly the seniors, right? They're going to graduate.
That's it,
and Lord knows where they're going to be in a year from now. Serving our country. So great game, great history here. And I'm happy for the folks in Foxborough and everything, but boy, it just doesn't seem normal, right? How's the game not in Philadelphia?
Yeah, I know.
Right?
Philly or Baltimore,
right?
Usually.
Well, I know it's in Baltimore, but
Yeah.
still, it's about being
Seems like a
in
Philly
Philadelphia.
game,
And Philly's away
you know?
this week too,
Yeah.
so I don't know. But either way,
Somebody offered some
2.5
cash.
and 28.
Well, next year.
Where's it next year? Hawaii?
No, it's at FedEx Field.
Oh,
Great.
That great stadium.
That great stadium. They go. They don't play in Philly again until 27.
Really?
They go Landover, Baltimore, MetLife for East Rutherford, and then back.
Well,
to
this new owner
Philadelphia.
for the Washingtons, whoever they
the Washington football
change the
team.
name and build a new stadium.
Just go back to the football team. Why not? Let's do it. Let's have some fun.
That's stupid.
Well, it's either that or the Washington Monuments, Chris.
well,
Better than the
I can
Commanders.
live with that.
It's
Yeah.
better than the Commanders.
That's not that bad.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. We'll see how it goes. Actually, we won't get to the Commanders later because they're not playing this week.
No.
With them in Arizona on bye, the last week of byes in the NFL coming up later in the show. All right, I just want to go through a few things college football wise before we hit our first break here. Bowl games obviously start next week.
Mm-hmm.
We have roughly 8,000 players in the transfer portal. Coaching staff's changing as well. Chris, just obviously it's a whole different process than what it was even 3 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
How do you handle this now, the non-playoff games, with getting your lines up, getting your totals up, and everything else that comes along with it?
Well, I tell my guys, we cut the limits too for not for the 2 championship games,
Of course.
but for all the rest. 5,000 to a side. Now we'll take a lot more in the day of the game, or maybe even the day before the game. But right now, we don't know a lot who's playing, and I'll give my friend here to the right of me a lot of credit. I know Vinny really follows that transfer portal, better than I do, really. But there's so many guys. I don't know how he could sleep at night if he's totally following the transfer portal. I mean, it seems like I think last I heard there was like 1,700 kids or something like that.
I think the last number I saw was 1,100.
1,100.
Which is still ridiculous.
Okay, well,
the amount.
yeah, whatever it
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
But I remember, Jeff, when I was a kid, and obviously I'm a lot older than you, but I remember when you had the New Year's Day games, and then they started, things like the Peach Bowl was kind of a minor bowl, and the Blue Bonnet Bowl. And they were, you still had some pretty darn good teams, and it meant a lot to the players, the teams, the coaches, obviously. And when somebody skipped a game or somebody got suspended or something like that, it was big news. And now it's just standard procedure.
Mhm.
Jeff, it's not much different than booking exhibition football. Like, we don't know who the hell's playing and how long they're playing, and we don't know what coaches. I just saw, Diaz from Penn State got hired by Duke. I mean,
yeah.
I guess he's not going to coach in the bowl game. But and a guy I mentioned last week, I'm going to mention him again, Dave Bartu, who's great not just with head coaches, but with coordinators and guys further down the line. And if you want to follow coaching, you will see a little bit of it now, but Dave will be following that from here on in to give you a glimpse into what he thinks, and he's pretty good. A glimpse into what he thinks of the staffs on certain teams. And, like I said, we're just starting it all now. And, boy, it is really a crapshoot at this point. But, Jeff, it's reflected a little bit in the handle, too. We have a couple games where we have bets, but a lot of games really nobody knows how to bet because nobody knows who's playing.
Hey, look, I don't plan on betting anything until maybe 24 hours before at the earliest. You have to really see who's actually going to play in these games. I'll have my bet on the Las Vegas Bowl because I'll be at that game, but that's more just a.
Are you announcing that game?
No, thankfully not for everyone.
But you have a gig
I got
tonight.
a game tonight.
You
though.
have
You got a
game
gig tonight.
Yeah,
God bless you.
We have to mention that.
night game.
Yeah.
Northwestern. But a lot of my wife's family actually grew up in Evanston.
Oh, really?
So that's a big game in the household, as we would say.
Yeah.
Here in the Las Vegas Bowl. But Vinny, since Chris was mentioning you a lot there with this transfer portal again, it's so different now. Again, just even 4 years ago, 2019, before the pandemic.
Sure.
It is totally and utterly different with having to be able to do this, and like Chris said, it not even that the handle is suffering right now. Where again, you guys are coming off the best college football season handle-wise you guys have ever had.
Well, here's the thing: between the transfer portal and the NIL, right there, because they are related. I mean,
Sure.
that's got the NIL has a lot to do with who's going into the transfer portal for monetary reasons, and understandably so. What you have now, in essence, in college sports is free agency, and that's fine. It's it's part of commerce. I mean, that's the commerce of college sports. But you have to be aware of it. So from our side of the counter, at Gone Gaming, I put the games up even later, and to wait and just to get an idea from some stabilization, try to get an idea of as many players as possible, particularly the skill positions. We've seen quite a few quarterbacks, running backs, and wide receivers opting out. But the other part, too, that I'm paying close attention to, and Chris and I have talked about, is coaches. You're going to have coaches now to start to move. You mentioned Diaz, right, leaving, but coordinators and the timing of these games also, I mean, you have to figure that our own coach here, Chris, is probably going to be a hot commodity based on how we turn this Rebel program around. This is the best record they've had in decades.
Sure.
So things like that come into play. And so what's the safeguard? You put the numbers up, but you're certainly not going to have the limits on the bowl games outside of the Final Four. Now, the Final Four, you treat them, book them like NFL playoff games, and they're going to be bet that way. So I think, too, that a lot of the handle that we're not necessarily seeing so far on the bowl games will take place the day of, but I think folks will get even more involved in the Final Four, in the two playoff games, because they have a better idea, obviously, of who's playing, and there's so much more time to book those games as well. So I think folks will take a wait-and-see approach, and frankly, they'll be I think they'll bet even more on the two finals, the two semifinals, I should say.
I hope you're right. I kind of think you are.
Yeah, I think
guys, listen, they love football, they love action, but right now they don't want to shoot in the dark. I mean, can you blame them?
No, not at all.
I can't.
Not at all.
But I think day of the game, like I said, we'll take a lot bigger handle at that point, and hopefully we catch up, because right now the handle's pretty dismal. I got to tell you. Not on the two championship games.
Let's go there.
I mean, not on those two.
I mean, look, we already got past the controversy and everything, and there's
every year.
There's still people aggravated in Florida, but they'll get over it. They'll get over it eventually. Yeah. Alabama and Michigan. I mean, look, the bettors have taken Alabama all the way through here, and quite frankly, Chris, I'm not overly surprised by the way this game's bet, down to 1 now with Michigan.
Yeah, I think I made it either Pick'em or Bam, or I'm sorry, Michigan 1. Mm-hmm. So right about where I made it. Texas, I still think Texas is a little high. I said on
4
here
right now.
I just not all that impressed with Texas last couple games. I think they ran up the scores, and I think that it was reflected in the way guys have power rated this team and the way they're betting them. I mean, obviously I could be wrong. I thought they should be a slight favorite, but no more than a couple points. I think there's some value with Washington in this one. That's my opinion. I think Vinny disagrees with me, but that's what makes horse racing, Jeff.
No, I don't. I think there's certainly value with both dogs. I mean, they got here. There's no question about it. I think in the case of Texas, they scored points. They needed style points too. Let's face it. When in the eyes of the committee, we pay attention. Obviously, of course, to the scores and how they get there and everything like that. But we knew that them and certain other teams were trying to run the score up because of style points. I did make it lower, but I think I'm glad Chris brought that up, because a lot of times when we talk about, well, listen, what do you have it rated? What do you have a team rated? And on a neutral field, what does your number come to? Well, there's that part, but then there's the adjustment part, right? In other words, just because let's say I have a team a 3-point favorite, and I think I actually had Michigan 2.5 or 3 in this game on a pure power rating standpoint, but I also realized that you can't hang it that way. And Chris did the great thing by saying, okay, listen, here's my number, here's your, and put it together and say, because part of what we do is anticipation, right? I mean, let's face it, if you're going to get Alabama with the way they've been playing, not only since the loss to Texas, but then the ensuing quarterback flip-flop, right? We talked about that, and they've been on a steady upward trend, right? So when you take all of that into consideration, there's no way you can hang them 3. Now, could it get there? I mean, anything's possible. But by the same token, getting that initial response and getting that number up, and there's been two-way action now, right? I think at both of these numbers, at the 1 and at the 4. So But it's also, again, I talk about this quite a bit. I love the exercise that we do, the two of us and Jimmy and, when we get some of our other colleagues involved when it comes to the playoffs and when it comes to the NCAA tournament, because certainly I know I learn from it all the time. And that's something that you want to do in this business. And to stay in this business is to keep learning and sharing those perspectives.
I also want to just say something that, when you do your power ratings, it just gives you a place to start.
Yeah.
Sure.
You go from there. You don't have to get married to your power rating.
I have no play on the Rose Bowl. I think those teams are dead even. I think Saban's a better coach than Harbaugh, but Harbaugh is a really darn good coach.
I was going to say,
You got two of the four best coaches in college football.
I mean, I think Saban's the best. I think you can't deny that.
100%.
But Harbaugh is a plenty good coach. I know he's kind of a nut, but he's a great coach. He really is.
Probably his best team, too. Excuse me.
Yeah.
By the way, this is probably his.
I would say without a shadow of a doubt, it's the best team he's had. In all honesty, last year, if they just didn't implode within themselves against TCU, maybe it's a different story. But that game's dead even to me. Totally dead even. And also smart of Michigan to say, no. It's a lot easier for us to get to New Orleans, but we're making you fly out to Pasadena. We're not giving you the de facto home game in New Orleans, Alabama, as a 1-4. And then the other game, the other game is fascinating because I think Texas is much more talented than Washington. And it's not to discount Washington's talent. They have a great quarterback at the collegiate level. They have one of the best receivers, if not the best receiver in college football this year. They have a defense that has just been totally doubted all year that's pretty darn good.
Mm-hmm.
But Texas has more talent. This is going to totally come down to how big of a coaching advantage does Kalen DeBoer have over Sark. Yeah. That's what the whole game is going to come down to. If Texas's talent wins out, I expect Texas to win a game by 2 touchdowns. If DeBoer outfoxes Sark, which is very much in play, the upset could happen in that spot.
I think you're dead on. I think Sark is a great play caller.
Great play caller.
Not necessarily a great coach. And I think DeBoer is just a terrific coach. And I pretty much agree with everything you said there.
Yeah, I'm more inclined to bet the Sugar Bowl and take the 4 with Washington.
Mm-hmm. I am too.
Yeah. But it's close. For what it's worth, whoever wins that Sugar Bowl, they're going to be a dog in the championship game. And I'm going to be taking points with whoever wins that Sugar Bowl.
You're going to take points with the dog? Whoever wins that?
I think Texas matches. I don't think Alabama matches up well with Texas. We already saw that once this year.
Yeah, we did see it once.
I think it's just a bad matchup.
Early in the year, though.
Sure. Milroe's much better now than he was at that point. But I think that's just a bad matchup for him. Okay. And if I'm getting points with either of those teams against Michigan, even with how good I think that the Wolverines are, I'll take the dog and just go from there. Because actually, Washington would obviously be a bigger underdog, but how big of a dog would they be against Michigan? They be pushing Michigan? A touchdown?
Yeah, I think it'd be close.
Yeah, if it's a whole touchdown,
I'd have to look. We got to let them play the game.
You have to see how the games play out.
Exactly.
By the way, before we move on to colleges, I got a correction from a friend of the show, a friend of mine personally too.
Sure.
Jeff Fogel.
Please.
Who's,
of course.
By the way, follow him on Twitter.
Very smart human being.
He is smart, and he is so analytical and thorough. I mean, if you are any kind of serious handicapper, you got to read his stuff. He's on he's a Substack subscription too, and it's well worth it. Like $10 a month or something. Anyway, says Army and Navy do not get to play in a bowl game.
Right,
the winner does not.
I don't know why Navy doesn't, because Army is. I believe Army has 2 FCS wins. But I don't know why Navy wouldn't be able to go. But he is right. All the bowl slots are full.
Yeah, the bowl slots are taken. Anyway, just clarification. But so this is the big game for both.
Still, regardless, a 500 season looks a lot better than 5-7.
Yeah, I know. On your coaching resume, it certainly does. Yeah.
By the way, I will say this, Jeff. Yeah,
Please.
I think Texas, overall talent, more talent, but I think Washington has the edge at quarterback. In my opinion,
I think it's close. I think it's really close. I'm higher on Ewers than I think a lot of people are.
What did you think, Vinny?
He thinks Penix is better.
I think Washington's got the edge at quarterback. In my opinion,
I think I would agree with Vinny, but it's also pretty close.
Well, it's interesting. So, before Texas lost that Red River game, I thought Texas was. At that point, they had to win over Alabama, which still arguably was the best. That's why the committee ended up doing what they're doing.
Sure.
Because they probably would have, if Texas had had lost to Alabama and beat Oklahoma, they probably would have taken Florida State and left Texas out. I think the main reason that they did what they did was Texas beat Alabama. We have to take them both, or we're going to leave the SEC. Whatever. That's a whole different discussion for a different time. But Texas's talent, to me, they're the most talented team in the whole country. I think they are the most talented team, top to bottom. But like I said, when you have a head coach who, in these four guys that are left, is clearly the fourth, that's a big thing to overcome when, again, yes, I say Texas is the most talented team in the country. These three teams that are in there with them are also unbelievably talented football
Good
teams.
games.
Great game. I know everyone was complaining about Florida State being left out, and we can talk about that until we're blue in the face. From a game perspective, these games rock. And if Florida State was in there against Michigan, that game would not have been competitive with what we saw out of the Florida State quarterbacks.
No.
Well, I think that there's always been and there always will be. Listen, there are going to be 12 teams next year. Yeah. There's going to be controversy. Whether
it's
been
a fight over Penn State, Oklahoma, and Ole Miss this year.
I will tell you that here's what the biggest controversy is going to be next year. Who's 4, 5, and 6? Who's going to get the first round bye and who's not? That's going to be next year's debate. And again, from our perspective, tell you what, we've got our ratings. You know, again, they've got their rankings. Polls don't determine prices. Okay, remember, we got those shirts ordered yet? By the way, I keep waiting for this.
That would be a good one. But Rob Meesh interviewed me this year. I'm sorry, Vinny, I didn't mean to interrupt. And he said, should bookmakers be on the committee? And no, you guys do your thing. Yeah. We'll do our thing. Just, have at it. Make anything you want to do. We'll adjust accordingly. We'll be fine.
We'll make the prices.
I mean, look, we have a former Heisman Trophy winner on the desk, according to punchlines. I mean, maybe we can throw Vinny in there, right?
We got that picture, by the way.
All right, before we take a break, I just want to ask you real quick. NBA in-season tournament last night.
The LeBron show?
Yeah. It is amazing. 38 years old, year 20 in the league. Domination. Didn't even have to play the last 18 minutes of the game. Lakers win by 44 last night against New Orleans. Our poor guy, Ryan McCormick, had the over. And you got over 130 points from the Lakers, and you still couldn't get there.
Ooh,
that's a pretty rough
beat.
Bad beat. All things considered.
Sorry, Ryan.
And then the upstart Pacers with the nice upset win over the Bucks. And Chris, I'll just ask you, because it'll be the only game tomorrow night in the association, just a Saturday night game in town, Lakers involved. Yeah. Got to imagine this will be a very, very good handle game for you.
Oh, yeah, I guarantee it will be, yeah. We don't have any number. Oh, yeah, okay, 4.
Yes.
4. Yep. Yeah, 4 looks like the number. Yeah, so, that should be a big event for tomorrow night. Yeah, and especially with no football to distract. So it should be a terrific game. Yeah.
The handle was terrific yesterday, as we talked about, because the games were here. And again, folks, when an event's here, people love. They tend to get even more involved.
Sure.
Okay, and especially even at the event, right, Chris? We know that folks at your South Point app and head over to the arena going. And you can still bet. And tomorrow will be the same way. And again, the fact that it's the Lakers too.
Yeah.
This always has been and will remain a Laker town. So strong.
Well, let me ask you this though, seriously. I'm going to ask both of you because I don't know the answer. I want to ask you. When you make your numbers, do you add in like a home court advantage for the Lakers here in Las Vegas?
Well, Ryan and I were there last night. Yeah. It was a Laker home game. Now, granted, New Orleans no-showed, so that really helped things out. Okay. I mean, if it was, let's say they were playing Boston or the Knicks instead, I'd probably say no.
Okay.
But because of who they are playing, and this is not to disrespect the Pacers and those great fans in the state of Indiana, who we know are as good at basketball fans as anyone in the whole country, it is very difficult to get out here on that short notice from Indianapolis, unlike all those East Coast transplants that are either here or in Los Angeles that could easily make the trip. I would say the Lakers should have at least a 2-point home court in this game.
All right, I'm asking.
I would say, I think Jeff hit on a key point. It depends on the opponent as well, and the travel. I mean, travel comes into it. I think the difference between here and, let's say, L.A. at Staples is, again, probably anywhere from 1 to 2 points. So if they're at home, it's stronger. But when it's here, if the Lakers are here, they're gonna be backed.
That's funny because money showed really kind of against the Lakers.
Well, I think the
initial money last night showed against, and then they bet them late.
Then they bet them late.
And then they bet them late last
I know
night.
the public had them in
and then
parlay, didn't they?
At least early on this, they're betting the Lakers because the books opened them earlier this morning with 3.5. Now it's 4. Tyrese Halliburton. What a tournament for Tyrese Halliburton. That's all I'll say. Regardless of result. Regardless of result for Indiana.
All of a sudden, everybody knows who this kid is.
You know what? For the in-season tournament, they got exactly what they wanted. They got a huge brand, huge franchise. LeBron, one side, upstart team that doesn't realistically have a real shot of winning an NBA championship this year. And a basketball market that we know Indiana is basketball crazy, as we know.
And by the way, best wishes to LeBron's son, who's making his season debut.
Bronny will play on Sunday
this weekend for SC
against Long Beach.
After his heart condition, his scare this past summer. So wish him the best in his debut. No question.
All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we shift over to the NFL. Boy, the Pittsburgh Steelers last night. Oh, boy. They got zapped.
I got to go take a break.
Yeah, that's okay. We'll take our first break. When we get back, all NFL talk the last 90 minutes here on a Football Friday on Sports by the Book.
South Point is also proud to provide a variety of relaxing amenities for the guests who want to be pampered. Soak up the sun and let your stress melt away in our lagoon-style paradise swimming pool. A relaxing getaway where you can bask in the desert sun and enjoy seasonal food and bar service poolside. And if you really want to escape, come to Spa Costa del Sur. From couple suites to a co-ed wet area, our spa caters to business and leisure travelers who want to unwind and elevate their senses. A visit to one of our spa's steam, sauna, or whirlpool treatment rooms will leave any guest feeling like they can take on the world. Our gaming amenities include over 60 table games and over 2,600 of the most popular slot and video poker machines. We have penny slots, including the popular Buffalo games, and real machines like Wheel of Fortune, 777s, and Megabucks. If you prefer video poker, try Deuces Wild, Double Double Bonus, or a variety of multi-denomination games. Or try your hand at one of the most popular casino table games in the world, Blackjack. Don't let the game intimidate you. Blackjack, also known as 21, is both easy and fun. And our dealers are always happy to assist. And the best part? Blackjack always pays 3 to 2. Next, check out the roulette tables. Roulette is one of the easiest casino games to learn, and so much fun to play. It's a favorite of both beginners and seasoned players. In addition to blackjack and roulette, our casino pit features over 60 popular table games like Baccarat, Pai Gow Poker, 3-Card Poker, Ultimate Texas Hold'em, and Mississippi Stud. So get out of your room and come join in the fun.
Oh, look at that. Look at that. From 2 days ago, 1980. Wow, what a year for 1986. The Mets win the World Series.
That's right.
Magliulo wins the Heisman.
Isn't that amazing? Look
wow.
at that. They love me downtown. Downtown Athletic Club still hasn't been the same.
Chris will be back with us in a second.
Who's that?
No, they go back and forth.
Ryan,
sure.
is that your handiwork
yeah.
What? Boy, I got to tell you, special effects are amazing these days.
I mean, look, the tuxedo still fits well, I would imagine, Vinny.
Yeah,
I mean,
I still have that tux.
Yeah, I mean, it really good. The hair the same. I mean, bravo all the way.
That's awesome.
Very, very good job.
Ann, were you in on this too? Come on, Ann. I didn't.
We don't need to see that again. We don't need to see that.
You still need a paycheck, right?
What is? Wow. Is that the one where Chrissy won the Golden Boot at the World Cup? Is
that would be pretty good.
That I could go for.
That'd be pretty good. Oh boy. All right, let's go back. I still love that screenshot so much. Are we going to give Jimmy the producer mic, guys? Give that. Look at this. Hold on. Let's get all these.
Oh, this is
these shout
I'll
out
tell you
shots
what,
up here. there
is nothing too technical. We
No.
have all the bells and whistles. in
Why
the
do we need him
studio.
to press a button? That'll be good.
No, we good back there, tech crew. Good.
This is really What's My Line? You know, like that old movie, that old program that was on TV.
I don't think Jeff remembers that one.
I've never seen it, but I do actually know what he's referring to.
Okay.
On that.
You never saw What's My Line? How about the $64,000
Jimmy, it was in
question?
black and white.
Was it-
You know, I mean,
Like
Jeff
my
wasn't
Heisman
born
picture
then.
was in black and white.
Yeah, Jeff wasn't born then.
Oh, you're moving me.
Hold on.
No, he's Jimmy's there. So Jimmy, first off, this is a whole new perspective from you. How do you like it back there?
I kind of like my new spot. I'm a producer.
Yeah, no, this is pretty good. This is pretty good. I saw you had some tickets in your hand.
Yeah. Want me to come over there, Chris? You want?
I mean, did you say you can say you have your own
Look at him.
microphone?
You got a
back there.
camera?
You have a
You got
camera
a
right
camera?
now. Just
Look at this, your
Yeah.
own individual camera. You can go right ahead and
Now you're in color. You're not in black and white like the Andy Griffith Show. You're on there TCM. You're in color.
Whatever you want to do. Tell me.
please.
go
The
ahead.
floor
You're
is
the
yours
producer.
from that chair, Jimmy.
Okay, here we go. You ready?
Yes.
we got the
We're
split
making
screen.
fun of our new
Don't
show
push
here.
any
No, we're
buttons.
not.
Oh,
All right, I got two. All right, we're going to show everybody out there a look from the inside looking out on what people like Mr. Andrews goes through every day and why he has done things and why he didn't do things. I'm holding in my hand two tickets, obviously, with above average play. One was for like 18,000 and a total here for like 10,000. The reason I want to talk about the total, and we'll bring Chris in because obviously he's the one that okayed these things. When you see big money on totals, you kind of know walking into the number, it's not like a local kid looking to bet on totals. These are people who want to move money and know that they can get a favorable bet with when you see it earlier. So, Chris, taking a $10,000 bet before, in a sense, a lot of things start happening, what goes through your head? Because obviously this is a pretty big market ticket that you don't see a lot of them. So do you know going in when you see the total, let me think about it, or B, it's got to be a wise guy only because they're betting a lot of money?
Well, I do think that they're wise guys because they definitely are. But I got to tell you, and this goes for this whole week because I thought the schedule's kind of lame, to tell you the truth. We have done a ton of business, and a lot of it two-way action on totals, and really a ton of two-way action on the games, which we're going to go through the games one at a time, and you'll see that we just have a lot of business. Now, the totals, I'm not sure which one he bet with you. Which one you got there, Jimmy?
I can't see. What's that one say?
Jerry, what does
What's
it
the
say?
total say?
Packers-Giants over 36.
Okay.
over 36. And then
I got to tell you, I'm not even sure I moved that. I did to go with the market, but I got to tell you, that was one of those games because we did have underplay under 36.5 earlier, which is why I went to 36. So when I got bet back over, I moved it back to the 36.5. But I think that's going to be, and we'll talk more about that game.
We'll talk about
when we
that
get
one.
to that one. I have a definite opinion there.
Well, I think you and I are going to have a pretty similar opinion. By the way, also, Vinny got his Penny alla vodka ready to go for that game, right?
No question.
Yeah,
Ready to go.
You know what? Let me run this by the old timers here, and that's not you. There. What's your name again? When I was a lot younger, and Chris was a lot younger, you looked at market value of what you would do with certain situations. Now I can remember going back to the Mirage. Obviously, the Mirage was a big joint, and Vincennes was at Caesars. But taking 3,000 on a total was a pretty big bet way back when. But as I use the word here, trying to be cool, was like the driven market. Now, because there's just so much more money played, that obviously you can treat the totals a little bit different because you're just getting so much more on everything that we do. So something, again, I'm at the Mirage. The Mirage was a big outfit, and we took a lot of money and a lot of things. But I can only remember like someone asking for a total for $3,000, which they didn't think they were going to get that much. Way back when. So as you can see, just another little trinket of like what's happening in the sports betting world. All positive when you get to people like Vincennes and Chris, because let's call it like it is, kids, and we'll tell you a secret that everybody in the world knows. The more money you take, the more you can give out to attract business too. So it's not like, Chris is just doing this to have fun. He understands that, like, obviously, if someone's going to go over the whatever number they said, that we can get equal amount of money on the other side, we're going to scoop up, $1,000 in our back pocket. So it's a different world. And, I kind of like it this way for a lot of different reasons, but there's a lot of things that I don't like about it. But like I said, going back to a big outfit that I was running, Chris ran all, Northern California, but it wasn't that type of market that it is today. Right or wrong, guys?
No, it's business has grown, limits have grown, and experience has grown too. So I think Jimmy's point's important to note. We have had to adjust, and proudly so, really, when you think about it, Chris, and following that and being more in tune with it, because it was automatic back then too, right, Jimmy? Where it was always, the public was always, give me so and so and over. It was always over. Now, the public does love points, and I oftentimes talk about it that they love to root for their teams, but they also love to root for the overs. But people realize, too, in order to be successful with totals, like professionals, there are times when you've got to pick your spots for the unders as well. So that's expanded, I think, the total market, Chris.
Well, I think, Vinny, when we first started way back in the 70s, guys who we considered like the sharpest of the sharp, maybe there was a handful of them at the time. Mm-hmm. Now there's hundreds of them.
Yeah,
they know not to take bad numbers. They know not to do things like and public service announcement. You don't tease college games. You don't tease totals. You don't buy half points just unless the price is right. Mm-hmm. Guys know not to do that now. There's way more of those guys. And like I said, when we started here, there was probably 10, maybe 20 guys like that in town.
Well,
now there's hundreds of them.
Yeah.
And so the general population of our clientele is much, much better educated
no
now
question
than it's ever been.
Good point.
But the market has grown, and I think it's when PAPSA was overturned, we took a little bit of a hit at first, but I said it was going to grow the market, and my numbers indicate that it has grown the market. It definitely has.
Good point.
And let's jump over to the side here. What's this guy about the 18,000 on the Lions? Is that the ticket we got?
Yep, yeah. Detroit -3 against the Bears.
That's a good number. Yeah. But, we do everything at 11 at 10. We're always going to have a good number around that.
So what I'm getting to with that one is like simply, only because it's the way that you do business and the way that we must do things, in a sense, keeping track of every big bet or whatever, as Chris knows and what I used to know and Vinny knows. Like it's a different world of keeping track because of gaming, of the people that, upstairs that look at the tickets and take care of everything. But, Chris would have okayed this Lion bet instantaneously because there's so many of these anymore. But like he has to go through protocol. We have to get the ticket number down. If they bet so much, we got to get the address, got to do a lot of things. That's the only reason it slows down. Chris would have taken the Lions bet instantaneously. But that's the difference between what? Filling out maybe one piece of paper 30 years ago. As literally, and people out there don't understand, sometimes it takes 10 to 15 minutes before you get all the information you need per gaming, per taxes, for everything else. So that part is quite different, young man.
When you're a new customer, the guys that we know, okay, we got all that stuff. But by the way, and I remember one guy, this was a couple years ago, I can't believe Jimmy Vaccaro and Chris Andrews make me fill out all this paperwork. And he's like tweeting at me. I says, by the way, write a letter to your senator or congressman. I have nothing to do with it.
It's federal banking regulation.
It's federal banking regulations. I mean, I'd like to not do it at all, but unfortunately, that's not the way things work. By the way, go to the bank and try to do that. So you got to fill out the same paperwork.
You hit it on the head. We have the same, when it comes to that Title 31 of federal banking regulation, we have to abide by the same procedures as banks. That's not us, believe me. We want to write tickets.
Yeah, go pay cash for a car and see if they have to fill that out too.
I want to use one of these too. It's called a pencil. No more.
Let me give you a little update on like one of the big things that happened that changed the course of like the way we take business out here. Is like going back to the Arizona State fixed game way back when. Within 20 minutes. After the word got out that these people were showing up everywhere, and I think at the Mirage, I took 3 or 4 bets, maybe totaling about $60,000 or $70,000 total with the three. What I'm getting at is this: like, it wasn't okay. Let's even give them the best of it. Between 20 minutes and an hour, there was gaming agents all over the place because they heard of something was going on there. So you can't spit on the floor anymore without doing anything to take home. And that was an all-day ordeal, which obviously a lot of us will always be a part of because we remember it. But the point I'm making is what I did is I contacted our compliance officer at the Mirage real quick because I wasn't getting my little ass in the jackpot because I used to get it in enough. But that's where it is. And Chris, I'm sure you 25 different sports books you had in Northern Nevada, so you had to do probably much more than we did, just running one place at a time.
Yeah, well, I had 28, but I mean, all those guys, we really had to be vigilant and make sure that everybody was following procedures correctly.
Sure.
It's a job, and it's it's not easy, but when you get into this business, it's not something you sign up for, but pretty soon you find out, oh yeah, I got to do that too.
I think people would be surprised at how much administration is involved.
Well, the other thing I would say too, we are the one department where every single transaction is documented. Every single one. Now you're on the dice pit.
No.
You 7 out, you pay this guy and then collect from these guys. But in the sports book, every ticket is accounted for, every payoff, every transfer to the cage, everything is documented.
I think that kid and his outfit that he brought in to make all the best, because I actually got him a room with the Mirage because hopefully he would stick around. But I should have kept my mouth shut because it just invited more people from gaming and whatever to come over here. But what I'm getting at is I think he went to jail. That Benny Silman or Slimman or something like that was the kid who was the main guy to start all this thing. So he didn't escape anything. Matter of fact, he paid a big price. And I don't know exactly what Vincenz took at Caesars, nor I know Chris, obviously, with all those places. And how about this for nobody understanding anything? If I live to be 1,000,000 years old, this is one of the stories that I'm going to tell. It's right before tip-off. I think it was a 12:30 game that day with Arizona State playing whoever they were playing.
Washington State.
That was
Washington or Washington?
I think it was Washington. That was
the tipping point game. The game that exposed it was Washington.
They had the whole Netflix doc on that whole thing as well.
Yeah.
Headache Smith and
A Tale of Two Halves.
Yes.
Yeah.
Here's what happened. I'm standing in the sports book, and just about everything is just about done. Here comes one of his lieutenants, walks up to the window. He has a $5,000 Treasure Island ship in his hand. Now, remember at that time we ran the Treasure Island and the Nugget also downtown. So this knucklehead Smith, what he did, he said, the last bet, I think he took +3 on a game that was 11 the night before. That's how dumb this outfit was too. They took a ridiculous number at the end of the day. He did a flip of a coin like Jerome Bettis did, I guess, with the Lions or Harris, whoever guy got to flip the coin there.
Yeah, Jerome Bettis, right?
Jerome.
Yeah.
So anyway, they bought the chip hit the top of the cage or the counter or whatever, and it bounced around. And he picked up. It's 5,000. I want to bet this right before. So he was taking a ridiculous number. What knucklehead Jimmy did, which got us behind in more hot trouble, even though it was a sister joint of ours, we couldn't take chips from any other casino unless the casino that he bet at. So naturally, I had to go and. That thing led for a bunch of months afterwards. Why I did it, I should have known better. But like I said, you live and learn. It was kind of fun. Chris, did you win or lose for the day with that one?
I lost to the day because of the way they played the second half. But, we were obviously very aware of everything. And, gaming was calling us too, because I had Northern Nevada blanketed with, my outfit. But we also had places in Southern Nevada, and you know how numbers once numbers start moving, they start moving everywhere. So and I think one of the things that helped them figure out. I mean, first of all, you and my Uncle Jack were the two guys who alerted gaming, but another guy involved was Billy Walters, who, like you said, you got guys taking 3. And Billy's looking to lay 11, So, I mean, he knew something was up. That's just not, Billy's not going to be off 8 points in a game that he's looking to lay something, and these guys are taking 8 points or worse of it, and I think he was a part of it as well. But, of course, I would say ask Billy. I don't mean to speak for him, believe me.
In some ways, it was a lot of fun. And but 90% of it said it wasn't. I ended up doing interviews, are you ready for this, with the FBI. like a month when they were still trying to figure out who the hell was who and whatever.
It wasn't an interview.
They interviewed me right by where. Remember at the Mirage when you walked out that side door, you walked right up to the Las Vegas Boulevard, and he had the tigers were in a cage there or whatever it was. That's where I did the interviews. I was standing in front of the tigers, so that was kind of fun. So
they were already following you, so it was easy for them to.
I'm done. You guys done?
Jimmy Vaquera, everyone. Always a
in the
pleasure.
producer's chair.
In the producer's chair today.
Awesome.
That might be Jimmy's spot from now on, in all honesty.
I kind of look. I think we should mix it up though, because it's not quite the same one. Jimmy, you got to do a walkthrough, don't you? Yeah.
3 o'clock?
Jimmy marches to the beat of his own drum, Jeff. In case you haven't noticed,
24-hour town.
Well, it is a 24-hour.
Remember, we were worried if we could fill 2 hours.
Oh, yeah. No,
We're going to be rushing through the end.
Never worried about that. We're going to be going to 4:30 right now.
Easily.
All right, let's get into the NFL. Let's start. Let's start with the game that's got all sort of quarterback questions, and that's Jacksonville and Cleveland. Trevor Lawrence is officially questionable. Looks like he's going to be a game time decision.
Yeah.
With that high ankle sprain he suffered on Monday night against the Cincinnati Bengals. The Cleveland Browns did not announce today they are not naming a quarterback until game time. You like that one, Chris?
Who cares?
DTR.
Right? Trevor Lawrence means something. These 3 yo-yos I got doesn't mean a half a point anyway.
So DTR is out of concussion protocol.
Yeah, okay.
Flacco
God bless him. He's a local kid. I don't mean
or
to
PJ Walker. But you mentioned,
but they don't mean anything to the
But
number.
you mentioned it. Trevor Lawrence to CJ Beathard is a pretty significant drop, and we've seen this already based off the way that this has been played. Cleveland's 2.5 right now, for what it's worth. But if Lawrence, we talked about this yesterday, Vinny, and I'm curious your thoughts on this, Chris. With Trevor Lawrence playing, if he does, and we know he's going to probably be topping out at about 65% with a high ankle sprain 6 days before.
Yeah.
How do you impact? How does that impact things with a quarterback that, yes, we know normal circumstances, big drop from him to Beathard. But what about a 60% Trevor Lawrence to what CJ Beathard would bring?
Well, I opened this game, before last Monday's
on Sunday
game.
Before the game.
Yeah. I opened Jacksonville's 3.
Okay.
So when the injury came out, I moved it to 3 the other way. So to me, 6 points I think was pretty valid. I thought Beathard played certainly better than I expected, and he looked okay.
He looked fine.
Yeah, he looked okay. But now I actually saw, I saw Lawrence kind of limping around in practice today. Didn't look too bad, but that, of course, he's not really getting hit or, not a whole lot of strain that they were putting him through. I think if like you said, Jeff, he's 65%, I think this game really probably should be about a pick 'em. Just for the fact that he's there, the team revolves, the offense, I would say, revolves around him. He's their guy. But of course, he's not taking snaps with the first team, I would assume, all week. They're really prepping Beathard, who's been around a while. But I would say the game probably is about a pick 'em with a hobbled Lawrence.
The thing about it is one hit, I think, is going to tell the story. This is a good defense that he's going up against.
No doubt.
Well, we've talked about it with Cleveland.
And
at home, they're the best unit in the NFL this year.
They're excellent. And I have to tell you, the other thing that to me comes into play here is, and it does impact the number as well, at least in my mind. The Browns, I don't think, again, I'm not Stefanski, but I was surprised at how good Flacco looked. He did not look bad last week.
I would agree with you. I thought he would be a disaster. He looked okay.
He was. Don't forget they had the lead, and they covered that. That game was they didn't cover, but it was right until the last possession. Okay, when he got sacked in the end zone with the safety and everything. But I've got to tell you, from Flacco to Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Really? I don't think that's a bigger drop off to me. So that comes into play here in this number. So I think if you see Flacco, you might see this game because this one's going back and forth, right, Chris? Between 2.5 and 3. They're laying 2.5 with the Browns and taking 3 with the Jags.
It's been heading down.
Yeah. Okay, I think with Lawrence is going to play, But he's not 100%, Jeff, to your point, which is extremely important. Even if he's 65%, I think that's a bit ambitious. One hit away, he's one hit away from not being able to continue. So I think it's pretty risky for the Jags here. I mean, and again, he's shown toughness. Remember, this was a similar, although I think this is a bit more significant because the last injury a few weeks back was his knee, right? This is a
high ankle sprain.
High ankle sprain, which that's
a hard injury.
It's difficult. I mean, a high ankle sprain is typically 4 to 6 weeks. So I don't know if there's gamesmanship going on here or not. But I've got to tell you, this Browns defense is a different situation for him.
I have, by the way, total 33. Not the lowest total this week. Obviously, last night was, and it zoomed over in the first half. But I'm going to learn a lot about the Browns this week, regardless of who's playing quarterback. Because if it's Beathard, you're supposed to, at home, handle your business against the backup quarterback. But if it is Lawrence, it's a guy who needs his mobility to be at his best.
Yeah.
He won't have it with the high ankle sprain, especially this quickly. And for Cleveland, with the Steelers just forgetting how to play football the last 2 weeks, and which if Trubisky's got to be the long-term answer, that is not a good thing moving forward for the Steelers.
I thought we were friends. What are you doing?
Sorry, Chris, but it had to be brought up.
How we feel.
The Bengals, who, yes, I know Jake Browning was awesome on Monday night, but it's Jake Browning.
Yeah.
At some point, you'd expect that to regress to the mean. For Cleveland, you got to take advantage of this opportunity to get a playoff caliber team where they're not right, whether it's Lawrence at 60% or it's Beathard. You got to find a way to win this game. Doesn't matter if it's Flacco, DTR, PJ Walker, Magliulo with the Heisman Trophy. It doesn't matter. You got to find a way to get this done if you're the Cleveland Browns at home this week.
I'll be ready, by the way.
Let me give a little, because I got nailed on this earlier today. If Trevor Lawrence does play, and maybe you like him, you don't like him, you like the total, you don't like the total, whatever. I got nailed on. I had total points for the Jags at 13.5.
Yeah, and
they bet me over, and I says, "Oh, you know what? I slipped up on that one, and I moved it to 14.5. I mean, if it's Beathard, probably 13.5 is the right number. If it's Lawrence, even a hobbled Lawrence, probably should be 14 anyway. They are going against a Cleveland defense who has been unbelievable at home. But anyway, that's
we'll see. That's a weird
something
one.
you might want to look at out there if you're out there.
By the way, weather is an impact in multiple spots
all throughout
across the country.
Northeast.
Cleveland is actually one of them that it's not an impact this week. It's actually the wind is about 12 miles an hour, so possible impact, but that's
a little bit.
That's pretty normal for a December game in Cleveland at this point, and it's 39 degrees. That's pretty good for December 10th in Cleveland. So,
well, the three of us grew up back in at least that region, I would say. And you're right. I used to love the painted dirt field that they used in Cleveland for many years. Green paint on the dirt, and the grass is fine. Oh, okay, it's paint. All right.
So let's look at this next game, Baltimore and the Rams. This will be the last one. Then we'll take a break, and then we'll have the whole second hour for this. Lamar Jackson's good to go.
Back at practice
yesterday with an illness on Thursday. Fully practiced, fully engaged, ready to roll. Baltimore's 8. Again, the Rams, amazingly enough, are back at 500. They are squarely in the mix to get one of those wild card slots in the NFC. But the weather in Baltimore, for a team that I think if there's any team in the NFL, them and the Lions, I think are the two teams that need to be playing games inside or in Southern California-esque weather. 58 degrees, that's not bad.
Sounds okay. All right.
12 mile-an-hour winds, okay, that's not
a little bit bad, but not horrible.
Pouring rain the whole game.
Yeah.
That's not
good.
And we talk about precipitation usually doesn't impact the total. It's usually wind more than the precipitation. This is one of the circumstances where I think the precipitation is going to really hurt the Los Angeles Rams in this game.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think so. I opened this game 7. They laid. I'm up to 8 with business. Although I made the game 7.5. I thought 7 was okay to start at. But they laid it to me pretty quick. By the way, for guys like me and Vinny's age, or when Jimmy was here, we remember the old days when I don't think the weather was any worse, but the fields were worse. If you've been down on an NFL on a football field, it's not flat; it's crested, and so the water, the precipitation runs off to the side, and just they've. And I had a friend of mine who worked on the ground crew at. He was at Three Rivers, and he was at Hines, and now he's my age, so he's kind of retired. But he would tell me a lot of the stuff that they do is really kind of an advanced science. So it's not quite as bad as it used to be. But if it's gonna, I think it was 70% chance of rain. Is that what I saw? So
it's up to 90 now.
It's up to 90. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds pretty strong. I think the weather probably will impact this game, and I think probably, 8 can be a mountain to climb in the NFL, but it would be very hard for me to bet the Rams in this one.
Nakua looks like he's going to play too. Remember, he got hurt. He got knocked out of the game last week, but he came back in.
He
did extremely well.
Yeah.
I will say this, that to both your guys' points about the Ravens, they have one of the stronger home fields in the NFL. This is a lot of times it doesn't get talked about, but them at home, particularly with Tucker in a weather game or any game really, a lot of times points, especially if you're getting a touchdown or more, with weather involved, you kind of say, well, maybe it's a kind of an equalizer, right?
Well, it's usually you'd look to take
the dog,
spot.
Yeah. But the fact that they're betting us, and again, Chrissy doesn't move numbers on air. By the way, air meaning just for the sake of what everybody else has, what you see out there. Now, it's a different story if there's an injury or things like that. But as he said, from 7 to 8 with money, and it's probably going to continue to grow because I think you'll see the Ravens in the public plays, both on moneyline parlays and teasers for sure.
For the Ravens, we look at the AFC as a whole now, and we'll get to the Dolphins later in the show, but I'll share my thoughts on them later. Baltimore has a clear path to the number 1 seed in the AFC right now.
Yes.
They play Miami at home in the next to last week of the season, which will be a team used to warm weather going north on New Year's Eve and what will normally be a very cold weather game in Baltimore. They do have to go to San Francisco, which is obviously they're going to be a reasonably sized underdog in that game. And then they play in Jacksonville. Who knows what Trevor Lawrence looks like at that point when they play next Sunday night in Jacksonville. But the number 1 seed's there for the taking. And I don't trust this team at all. Not one bit. I don't know what it is.
The Ravens,
I don't trust them at all. Okay. I don't know if it's that they've had limited playoff success in this era with Jackson, where they only have one playoff. They have the one playoff win in Tennessee in 2020. That's it. I don't know if it's that they've had these games at home where, they have the beatdowns of the Lions and the Seahawks on the ledger, but then they have the game where they randomly give up 33 points to Cleveland and P.J. Walker.
Yeah, I'm looking at that right now.
And then you have the game against Indianapolis where, yes, I know the Ravens were really battered with injuries in that game, but that's a game you still find a way to win against a Colts team that, yes, has turned out to be significantly better than we thought. But I, for whatever reason, of those top teams and all those AFC teams at the top have big-time flaws this year. Kansas City's offense is nowhere near as good as it was. Jacksonville, look at that defense on Monday night. They got torched by Jake Browning. Miami, can Tua stay healthy a whole season is still a big question.
Well,
and there's questions about that defense, even though they've been good the last month.
Yeah, they're blowing out inferior teams.
And like you said, and Vinny said, to beat someone good.
Yeah.
Still haven't done that yet.
Yeah.
And Baltimore, I just don't trust any of them. Again, if any of those wild card teams were any good at all, and I don't think any of them are.
Did you see the Steelers last night?
They were great last night, Chris.
Yeah.
But I don't trust the Ravens. And could the Ravens still win the AFC, make the Super Bowl? Of course. Of course. If they have home field, they're going to be the favorites in the AFC going into the tournament.
But do you trust them more than some other teams? Or it has to be teams that you trust less.
Of the top 4 in the AFC, I trust Kansas City the most at the moment because they've been there and done that, despite the fact that offense has a whole boatload of – probably have more games being held under 20 this year than they have in all of the Mahomes seasons combined,
But
Chris.
That
is like, it just shows something is wrong with that team right now.
Well, they kept losing receivers, and you say, they'll be okay. They'll be okay at some point. What you
That was good, Peanut Gallery.
Yeah.
Blaming Matt Nagy. Which Ryan McCormick may be onto something like that. But and we'll have the futures discussion as we get tighter and tighter as well. But it's a wide open AFC, and I will say this, and I've been on the desk lower than anyone on Buffalo, period. If the Bills make the tournament, they're going to be a scary, scary draw for whoever gets them throughout that postseason as long as they're in it.
I think the difference with Kansas City trust, though, is they're probably going to have to do it on the road. At the present rate,
now they would have to go on the road.
At the present rate, it's going to be a different set of circumstances. And as Chris mentioned, the receiver corps, by the way, when we get to them, they're without Pacheco this week.
Yeah, Pacheco is out officially today. By the way, Kansas City still has not played a true road game in the NFL playoffs with Patrick Mahomes as quarterback. Only the three neutrals. Well, two neutrals.
Different level of trust on the road.
It's weird to say because that Super Bowl in Tampa was in Tampa against the Bucs, even though it was a neutral.
Yeah, it's still a neutral.
Yeah, but regardless.
By the way, one more thing about the Rams. They were big steam on the season win totals under like 6.5.
Yeah, well,
and I remember kept looking. Are they going to be that bad? And it's not that they're that bad, but the NFC is the middle of that NFC
top
is
three.
Really mediocre.
Top three, quite good. Then Detroit, and then a nice little gap after the Lions.
Big gap. Yeah.
By the way, if that over on the Rams season win total doesn't get there with home games remaining against Washington and the Saints, and a trip to Meadowlands to take on the Giants doesn't get there, that'd be a big old yikes.
Yeah.
To say the very least. All right, we're gonna take a quick break. It'll be the last one we take today. When we get back through all the NFL games remaining on the slate, we go starting with Detroit at Ryan McCormick's Chicago Bears. That's next. Sports by the Book, South Point Studio.
We work hard to provide you with all the conveniences that will make you come back again and again. Things like free parking and easy checkout from the TV in your room. While you're here, be sure to use the club card to get all the perks, comps, free meals, and cash we want to send your way. It's simply the best players' reward system in Las Vegas. Membership is quick, easy, and free, and you can start earning points for cash and comps immediately. Go to the club booth to sign up today. Also take advantage of our business center, located right by the Benny Binion statue. Print boarding passes or enjoy the convenience of our FedEx, UPS, and U.S. mail services. Just another way we're here to serve. Also during your stay, don't forget the convenience of room service. You can enjoy a delicious meal in your pajamas from the comfort of your room. Just call extension 77085 or use the room service function on the TV in your room. And if you need a ride to or from the airport, our free airport shuttle can be scheduled with the front desk at extension 73139. Please give at least a 24-hour notice to reserve. For information on Strip transportation, please call our bell desk. Finally, remember us for your next business meeting, conference, or banquet. From our 80,000 square foot exhibit hall to 70,000 square feet of convention space, which includes our grand ballroom, we have everything you need. Our getaway location and commitment to exceptional value and service have cemented our popularity with business communities around the country. Thank you for staying with us. Whether for business or pleasure, we're glad you're here. And we're here to serve. South Point Hotel, Casino, and Spa, where there's something for everyone, all under one roof. Enjoy your stay.
Welcome back in. It's Sports by the Book, South Point Studio. Happy to be with you as always. A Football Friday. I'm Jeff Parles, Chris Andrews, Vinny Magliulo. Alongside, we already saw Jimmy in the producer's chair. New gig for him, Chris?
He is an American treasure. Jimmy can do whatever he wants right here.
I was very happy to just sit back and listen to you guys talk about that Arizona State thing.
Yeah.
For people of my age, again, probably the biggest experience we had seeing anything on that was that Netflix documentary that was out there. But hearing just firsthand accounts always fascinating to me, especially on an event with really big time importance in the sports gambling lexicon history here in the country.
Well, I think for all due credit, my Uncle Jack was probably the first to sniff it out.
No question.
And Jimmy was right there, and Vinny was right there. They were all kind of right there.
On the corner. We're on the same
We're
corner.
on the same area.
I was up in Reno at the time, but we still had all the runners up there too, and we like I said, I had 28 places, including some in Las Vegas, and I was a little bit more on the periphery certainly than these two guys were, but we saw a lot of it, and like I said, it was one of those games. Billy Walters looking to lay 11 on the game and went down to 3. Now something's messed up there. It's supposed to go to 17, not 3.
You knew something was out of sorts for a variety of reasons, but I think Chris hit on a key point when Billy and other professionals would come to the counter and say, "What's going on with this game?" To see it go, down to 2 in some case. I mean,
something isn't adding up here.
I mean, it was and unfortunate too, because some people, some young people in particular, had their lives altered negatively and impacted negatively for the rest of their lives.
And
terrible.
I got to say, in this country and probably even around the world, I mean, fixing games, it's really like one step below, or above, however you want to look at it. Not quite as bad as being like a pedophile. I mean, it's close. I mean, that's just the way you're treated. You fix a game, man, you are marked for life. I mean, that is not a good thing.
Again, just hearing this firsthand accounts, and you were at Caesars at that point.
I was at Caesars.
You were at Caesars, and Jimmy, of course, was at the Mirage.
Yeah. Michael Jack was at the Barbary.
The Barbary Cross was right across
right there.
All right there.
Right there.
All on that
corner
of Las Vegas Boulevard and
great network.
And Flamingo.
Yeah.
Great network.
Down, and I'd also forgot the Treasure Island story that Jimmy said on that is pretty fun as well.
Yeah.
A good old TI. All right, let's roll back into the NFL here. The Chicago Bears off the bye, taking on the Detroit Lions. The Bears should have beat these Lions a few weeks ago. In Detroit, but boy, was it a disastrous last 6 minutes for the Bears in that game.
2 late touchdowns by the Bears in that game, right?
Detroit comes from behind. Bears beat Minnesota without a touchdown 2 Mondays ago, and now back home. Chris, if you want to lay the Detroit Lions, the best number in Las Vegas right now, behind us, 3 flat on the Lions. In this one, on the road at Soldier Field.
I like the higher number. I'm not saying I particularly like the Lions, but I thought 3.5 was a better number than 3. So I used 3.5 quite a bit during the week. But we got a lot of play on the dog, especially Jimmy didn't have the ticket, but I got another 29 bet earlier this morning on the dog. So we did have to go to 3. And, Jeff, it's funny. We have the best number right now. When I go back to 3.5, that'll be the best number again if you want to play the dog. So either way, we do everything here at 11-10. And, I got to be honest with you, sometimes it comes back and bites us in the ass. There's no question about it. But don't ever cry for us. We'll be okay. When you live by the sword, you die by the sword. If it comes 3, we take a licking and keep on ticking for you guys that remember the old Timex commercial.
We'll be open on Monday.
Yep.
But the thing about this professional, Chris, you opened this game 4 on Sunday night, and so
I like the higher number.
Professionals took the 4. They're taking the 3.5, and believing that the Bears are a live dog here. Fields, something. I think he's. I don't want to say he's fighting for his job, but in a way he is, right? When you face it, let's face it, and that's the other thing people have to realize too. And these are professionals. There are guys. People say, tank. A lot of we've got a couple of Patriot fans here. They're yelling yesterday, tank.
Number 1 selection.
Stop scoring. It was 21-3. They were upset. These guys, they're fighting for their jobs. They're not good. Players and coaches don't tank. Fans want draft picks, and no, it's not going to happen. And so this is a situation too where professionals believe that that the Bears are alive, and the Lions from the second half. Well, not because they had a good second half last year, but I would say the last month. But from the last month of last year to now this year, they're one of the public teams, and you have to. They follow their coach's persona. They're fun to watch. Let's face it.
Yeah.
I mean, you love watching Campbell and his team compete. So this is right here with what you're seeing here with 3 and 3.5 is a public versus a professional game in terms of betting.
I see some signs out of field. I got to tell you, my one friend, you know him, Johnny Greco.
Yeah.
Another Italian. He floated this out today to our group, a bunch of Pittsburgh guys. What if we Steelers, trade Tomlin to the Bears for Fields and their number 1 draft choice?
Oh, wow. Johnny Greco playing GM.
Johnny Greco playing GM. Johnny out there listening? He might be.
What's the last coach traded for a player or players? Was it
might be Belichick?
No, it was. It had to be. It was after. Was it
for
after?
Actual players? Because Sean Payton was technically traded this offseason, but not for players. He was
for draft choices.
Yeah.
It was Chucky from the
What,
Raiders
Gruden?
to Tampa, right?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Right.
Anyway, what do you think? I don't want to spend too much time on it because we're going to run out of time.
All I will say is, because Ryan McCormick and I actually kind of had this conversation yesterday on Fields. If I were the Bears and I was picking number 1, and they're going to pick number 1 because they have Carolina's pick, and with New England winning last night, it's a 2-game lead on everyone else for Carolina.
Yes.
Or you understand what I'm saying?
Sure.
2 games worse than everyone else. It's either one of 2 things for Chicago. At least if I were doing it, it would either be I think Fields should be their quarterback.
I do too.
I like Caleb Williams. I think he has an amazing skill set. I don't know if it's all the way there. I would definitely not take Drake May at number 1. I can tell you that right now. But it's only 2 courses of action for Chicago. You take the wide receiver at number 1 at Marvin Harrison Jr., who is, to me, the best player in this draft, and I don't even think it's particularly close. Or do you just trade down and get another King's ransom for picks? Because there are teams that are going to need quarterbacks that want to move up to 1 or 2 or wherever. And also, too, Arizona's got a complicated situation, too, and they're going to be picking at the top of the draft because Kyler Murray has looked pretty good since coming back from his injury.
I got to tell you, in my humble opinion, I'm always looking to trade down.
Okay.
I'm looking to trade down. So many, let's go through the league. How many of these quarterbacks that got traded up for? By the way, we saw one last night, Mitch Trubisky.
Yep.
They traded up. I hate to. There's another Chicago. Yeah.
Trade up 1 spot.
Yeah. For a guy that if the first read isn't there, he's done. But it's so hit and miss, and I think Fields has some potential. Let's get some players around him. I think trading down would stock up their roster with some pretty good players. I'm highly in favor of that.
I would also fire Eberflus within a second of the season ending as well, and go get yourself an offensive-minded coach. I will say this, not to disrespect the defensive head coaches now in the NFL. If you're hiring a non-offensive head coach at this point, you're doing it wrong. Just the way that the league is. And now that it's starting to turn back towards the defenses.
Well, I see some of these totals. Yeah.
Whoever cracks the code now would be the ones that you would look at. By the way, other coaches that were traded, one of my favorite ones ever, Herm Edwards was traded from the Jets to the Chiefs. The Jets drafted Leon Washington with that draft pick. And Leon Washington was a really good player, special teams running back for the Jets in the mid-2000s. All right, Carolina, New Orleans. Derek Carr somehow was limited in practice today with a shoulder, a rib, and he's still technically in concussion protocol.
The second time in concussion protocol within a month, by the way.
The money showed on New Orleans.
Well, I think how much of that is just a fate of Carolina at this point with the Saints up to 6.
But, we've been – this is a toggler between 5 and 6, and even today at 5.5, they laid me the 5.5, and I'm up to 6. Jeff, this is one of those games. Could there be a much worse game on the schedule? I have 2 tons of action on this game. It's unbelievable.
Division rivals, Chris.
The battle for the South.
Yeah, hey, look, this one is legitimate. You throw the record books out when they play.
Well, I can tell you this. I can't believe it. I have so much business on this game. You would die if you saw it. But God bless. And I think the number. What did I make this number? I actually made it a little higher. I made it 7. Oh man, I really don't believe in Carolina in any way, shape, or form. So I prefer staying on the higher end of it, but it's 6 everywhere.
Vinny,
it'll surprise you which games do quite a bit of business sometime, and this is clearly one of them. The Saints they're in a must-win situation. This is going to be the division that has probably the worst, the lowest winning percentage, right? I know the Falcons are finally at 500, but they're all going to battle each other and head-to-head, and this is a game that the Saints have to have. And I think that's got a lot to do with the mindset of the bettors here in going with – it's as much a play against, I think, Carolina than
Carolina was a little better last week.
Well, the weather might have helped with that too, and the fact that three of the starting, top running linebackers, both starting linebackers were out, and some other injuries that occurred for the Bucs.
By saying, they were a little bit better. They averaged 4 yards a play against Tampa's defense with no linebackers. That's not good.
No, I mean, I think the weather really was an equalizer there. In that case, it was a. I'm surprised it didn't get. Well, I guess it was not lightning in Pittsburgh. There was lightning. That's why they stopped it.
Let's go to the other NFC South. Really, we put both NFC South matchups in the same week.
Yeah, there you go.
That's very nice of us, League. Falcons are 1.5-point favorites. They already beat Tampa in Tampa earlier this year.
Mm-hmm.
Now back home, 1.5-point favorites, which is actually marking low on Atlanta. It's basically two blanketed across, except for behind us. 41 the total. All I will say is I watched every single snap of that Falcon-Jet game, and I had a headache at the end of it. But the Falcons were very lucky that the Jets were just impossibly inept, as they've been the entire season. Atlanta won a game last week with 13 points, 3 yards per play. The only thing they did right on offense is they didn't turn the ball over. They were +3 on the turnover differential, which ended up really being the difference in the game more than anything. With that said, I like the Falcons in this game back at home. You know what? At some point, Chris, and I've been saying this all year, and I know right now Atlanta is in first place in the division. They're just so much more talented than all these other teams in the division. The only reason they're in this position is because their quarterback's terrible.
Play, but this is a quarterback league, though, Jeff.
But 100%. That's why they're 6-6 and not 9-3. And like, whoa, wait a second. Maybe Atlanta could beat the NFC East champion in round one. I mean, they're going to be a big dog regardless of whether it's Philadelphia or Dallas as the runner-up, I should say, in the NFC East. Tampa's still battling injuries, too. They're going on the road. I'm short of a field goal. I like the Falcons here at home.
So refresh my memory. Atlanta won in Tampa.
Yes.
Okay.
Despite 3 critical turnovers.
Ritter had a turnover of 1. I mean,
My good friend, and I haven't seen him in years, Mark Henderson. I love this guy. He was a terrific guy. He used to call these a major reverter.
Okay.
So a major reverter. So Atlanta won in Tampa. Tampa's going to go into Atlanta and win. Mark, I hope you're out there listening. I hope you're well. I love you, buddy. But I personally don't like the game. What did I make it? I made it 2.5, which is what I opened.
Okay.
But money showed on the dog, which is why I'm at 1.5 here.
I think we'll see some Falcon money. It will end up being a two-way game. I suspect anyway. I think Falcons run the ball. Their defense is good. They're much better at home too, and they're used to playing in close games, right? And when you look at a lot of their games, they're close. So I think they're just a healthier team here. So I suspect that we'll see some Falcon money when the public really starts pressing up their bets over the course of the weekend.
Again, ugly division. But like I said, and you said it, Chris.
Somebody's got to win it.
It's a quarterback league. Someone's got to win it. That team just has so much talent, but the one position you need to at least be half decent at, they are not even close to even being half decent.
And Mayfield's a Warrior, so if there's an edge.
Yeah, I mean, if Atlanta had Baker Mayfield, Atlanta would be winning the division by 3-4 games right now.
No. Yeah.
All right, let's go to a game that's flipped favorites here, and this is one that fascinated me. Vinny, you and I talked about this a little bit with Alex yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cincinnati has flipped from where you opened before the Monday night game, where it was Indy 2.5 on the road. Jake Browning that has arguably the best quarterback game of the entire season from anyone, as we all expected going into the year, Chris.
It looked like he was back at Folsom High.
He was great.
He really was.
Once they let him start throwing the ball, he was great. The only ridiculous play in that game was Tyler Boyd throwing it right to Josh Allen, which, okay, sure. But, Chris, you reopened pick, and now it's Cincy -2. I have no clue what to do with this game because I do think the Bengals at home at Browning can even be half as good as what he did on Monday night. I do think they are more talented than Indy. It's just the quarterback position. But the Colts just keep finding ways to win games behind Minshew and company, and right now are in great position to make the postseason this year.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I made it pick after the Monday night game. Now, I root for a kid like what's his name again?
Jake Browning.
I root for a kid like that because I think he never really got his chance, but he looked like, I said, I went back and read the scouting report on him. His arm strength looked a little weak, and that's why he didn't get drafted. But he was very accurate. The coaching staff, and by the way, I knocked Zach Taylor a ton when he first started. He has really kind of figured out the game. He's gotten better and better as a coach. But they figured out what he could do. They let him do it, and he looked very good. Now, I got to tell you, Jeff, I'm looking for a bit of a regression to the mean here. Do I love the Colts? No, but I really thought Pick'em was the right number. And but the money showed on the Bengals, and that's why I'm at 2. But, I'm okay with it. We just let the chips fall where they may, and I think 2's okay. I mean, I think Pick'em was okay here, and if I wind up needing the Colts, then I'm okay.
If it continues to climb, I think that folks may be waiting, and particularly pros, may be waiting for a 3, Chris.
Sure.
Because perception's reality to a lot of people, right? And I think what's fresh in their mind is what they saw on prime time the other night. So, look, think about it: Minshew versus Browning. I'll tell you one thing, and this doesn't really surprise me. Although I think the Bengals defense is okay. You wouldn't have known by the other night. The total is getting played over here, right? I think it's up 3 points.
I opened 41
and climbing. So I don't think there's a real shock there because we do know that the Colts can score points, and we did see the other night that the Bengals are still a potent offense. So that doesn't really surprise me that the total continues to go up.
I probably won't end up touching this game. Shane Steichen deserves Coach of the Year votes if this team makes the postseason. You lose your quarterback in game 4.
Absolutely. He's done a fantastic job.
What, this was a 6.5 win total team, too, as well? So they're already over in 12 games. I mean, look, as wild as we all expected it to be, the AFC South has taken advantage of the AFC being down this year, where you have 3 teams that are 7 or 5 or better through 12 games. Mm-hmm. No one expected that. Especially with the Titans being the one bringing up the rear at 4-8 on their season as well. All right, one more 10 a.m. Pacific game. The Houston Texans, another 7-5 team, going to New York, taking on the New York Jets. Zach Wilson feels like playing, so he'll get the start for the Jets this week.
Wow.
All I'm going to say is we talked about this when Boyle was put in for Wilson. The betting market told you all you needed to know with that move, where that game against Miami moved 2.5 points quickly to the Dolphins. Tim Boyle gets benched for Zach Wilson, and this game immediately goes from 6.5 to 4. So, again, I'm not saying Zach Wilson's even an NFL starting quarterback, but he's better than Tim Boyle. I can tell you that.
Didn't they release Boyle, too?
They flat out just cut him. Yeah. They signed Rippon from the Rams practice squad.
There you go.
Or the Seattle practice, whatever practice squad he was on. He was on someone's practice squad. But Chris, down to 3.5 now with the Texans. Total has been what's been smashed, though, in this game from 37 to 33 on this one. Weather going to be awful at MetLife as well. Same sort of deals as in Baltimore.
The big move came when Wilson was announced to start.
I know, how sad is that?
My first thing I said, you got to be kidding me. I mean, is he better than Boyle? Yeah, of course he is. Okay. But 2.5 points better. Guys are putting their hard-earned money on the Jets. I got to tell you, I need the Texans pretty good here. I'm fine with that. That's okay.
Can't blame you.
I think the Texans are, a good team. We talk about Coach of the Year. DeMeco Ryans has to get a whole bunch of votes. Mm-hmm. He's a young coach with a young quarterback. I don't think I can speak for myself. I certainly didn't expect anything out of this team this year. They are certainly one of the big, big surprises. And I got to tell you, I really like this team. And the future, I'd say, looks pretty bright for this Houston team because it's a quarterback league. But, Jeff, it's a coach league too. And I think they've got those two pieces in place. And I'm going to need the Texans here. I'm okay with that.
They still, I think, film the majority of soap operas in New York, right?
I think so, yeah.
Well, here's one of them, because this is absurd, what's going on with this organization. and leaks and this, you got Aaron Rodgers now. It's a dysfunctional organization. Now that said, there's still support for the Jets in this game, and I think part of it too is that the Texans have quite a few injuries, and including I think Tank Dell is going to miss this week. So when you look at the Texans' injuries, which for the most part they've had to deal with for the better part of a month or 5 weeks. And they continue to compete and compete for a playoff spot. To Chrissy's point, terrific coaching. They've drafted well, right, including Stroud. So it's an organization very much in sync.
Well, they second, third picks in this past draft.
Mm-hmm.
Will Anderson is a front runner for Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Yep.
And C.J. Stroud is going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year, barring something really ridiculous in the last month.
I mean, some people would make a case for Nakua, but the quarterback who touches the ball,
the wide receiver,
touches the ball on every snap. So,
all I will say is with the Texans, the one concern that I have, even though they got away with it last week, which I still don't know why that defensive touchdown got ruled a non-touchdown, but the refs have been spectacular in their own way this year. We'll just go with that.
I would pick a different adjective, but okay.
I hopefully oozing with sarcasm on my end. Here.
Okay.
But C.J. Stroud has been a little loose with the ball the last month.
He's had more interceptions right in the last few weeks.
He's been a little loose with the ball. And the Jets still have a top-flight defense, regardless of what train wreck. I mean, they're on pace for the least amount of offensive touchdowns for a team in the NFL, and it hasn't been scraped since the early 90s in the Seattle Seahawks when those teams were really bad in the early 90s. So it has been a long time since we've seen an offense this inept in the NFL. I'm just wondering if this is a game where the Jets defense turns over Stroud and this thing is a lot closer than it needs to be because of that. So I'm not touching this game. I would not chase a bad number with this team, especially, even though it is north of a field goal in an inclement weather game. All right, let's go to the juggernaut, the Niners. Boy, they spotted Philadelphia quarter, and it didn't matter. Just a prolific beatdown the last 3 quarters in South Philly by the Niners of the Eagles. Now they see the Seahawks for the second time in 3 games. And, Chris, we talked about it last Friday after their tight loss to Dallas. This season is squarely on the brink for the Seattle Seahawks right now, where they're 6-6 after being 6-3. They have this one, and then they have Philadelphia next week. They could be 6-8 going into 3 winnable games the last 3 weeks of the season and needing to win them all and getting some help, especially losing to the Rams twice this year. It is 12. That's also the market low right now because they're 13.5 in the market now.
I was very fortunate because I do like the Niners. Not so much at this number, but I did like them earlier in the week. I had a high number. Somebody took 13.5 off me, and I wound up going, and I saw the market drop, and I went down to 11.5. They took that off me, so I got 2 pretty nice sized bets. And what I would say aren't great numbers. So right now, I'm willing to take a little bit of action on the Niners. I moved it up when I saw names. What's the quarterback's name for Seattle?
Oh,
Geno Smith.
Geno Smith. Yeah. So Geno Smith looks like he's questionable or doubtful for this game. So I moved it up quickly, so I didn't take a bet to move it back up. But right now, if they play, I'm really in pretty good position with the favorite. And I think money will continue to come in on the favorite. And, again, that's okay. I think I'm all right. I'm not really looking to take any huge stands if I don't have to. But I like the favorite here, and I got plenty of money on the Dolphins.
So real quick, Vinny, before you go ahead here, Pete Carroll today, non-committal on Geno Smith's status, questionable groin. If he doesn't go, it's Drew Lock. They signed Sean Mannion off their practice squad. So it is not looking great, Vinny, for the prospects of Geno Smith this week.
Well, look, I think we saw the real Niners last week, and again, I don't want to overreact, but I've said when they're healthy, they're the best team in the league. Now, the one key injury they had was a month ago. one of their safeties, and he was lost for the season. But they have a terrific pass rush, which makes the secondary better, and that certainly helps. But to me, if you look at when they lost those 3 games in a row, their MVP is Debo.
Yeah, I mean, he was amazing.
Let's face it. I mean, he does it all, and he makes everybody else better. Yeah, McCaffrey's terrific. Everything they do is good. But I think without Debo Samuel, they're a different team. And as long as he and the rest of this team stay healthy, they're going to be pretty significant favorites for the remainder of the season, and certainly going into the postseason. So, I do, and I think to Chris's point, I think we're going to continue to see Niner money right up until kickoff. And don't forget, this is an afternoon game, so there's going to be morning carryover to it, and I'd be surprised if it comes back down. I think it'll continue to go up.
Well, I'm with Vinny. I think Debo Samuel, and they got a lot of talent on this team, by the way. But I still think Debo Samuel is probably the best player. Yeah, Kittle. We never even mentioned Purdy, who might be the MVP.
Well, Purdy now, most books that have those numbers up, Purdy is the betting favorite now to win the MVP.
Yeah, so we didn't even talk about him yet. So I mean, I just checked. I got him 4.5, 5 points better than any team in the league.
Yeah,
that's how much I think.
Giant.
It's giant, but I mean, we could talk about it. I think a fully healthy 49er team, which we've seen after those 3 games where they had a lot of injuries and did not play well, but a fully healthy 49er team, I honestly believe is 4.5, 5 points better than any team in the league.
Well, I mean, just look at the 2 games against the 2 competitors in the NFC when they were healthy. A 23-point win last week against Philadelphia in Philly. And then the 42-10 game against Dallas that was not even that close.
Yeah.
I mean, they've just eviscerated plus 55 against the only 2 teams in that conference that could possibly beat them in a playoff game. If they stay healthy, they're getting here to Las Vegas.
Yeah.
It's just going to be a matter of can they finish the deal against whoever the AFC representative is.
I mean, health means such a big difference in December and January. It really does. But if they stay healthy, they're that much better than everybody else.
No, 100%. I mean, for them, they're not going to see Joe Burrow, who right now that's the only non-coin flip loss they had. The other 2 games were flips. I mean, Purdy turned it over against Minnesota, and they just played horribly in that Cleveland game, and everyone got hurt in the middle of it.
Right.
So, regardless, you're allowed to have a bad 3-game stretch, especially if you have it in October. A lot better.
Yeah, don't do it in January.
Don't do it in December or January. All right, let's. I was down on the Strip yesterday for the in-season tournament, and just walking around, there was a lot of purple already for the Minnesota Viking fans.
Oh, really?
Who are going to make a big trip, Minneapolis in December, to come to Vegas? Sign me up for those Viking fans. Josh Dobbs is going to start. There was some question about that after how Kevin O'Connell talked after their loss to Chicago on Monday night 2 Mondays ago. Raiders also back in action. Aiden O'Connell, of course, we know it's his team the rest of the way when Antonio Pierce is the interim. Vikings are 3. Chris, I like the Raiders outright in this game.
Yeah, Jeff, I was going to be ashamed to say I made the game pick them.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, we talked about it with Browning, and we're seeing it with Josh Dobbs.
Oh, yeah.
We know why he was I think it was a 6th-round draft choice. We know why he's bounced around the league quite a bit. Listen, everybody knows the story. He's, a rocket scientist. He's smart as hell. Certainly a much better athlete than anybody sitting here in this room. Sorry, guys. But
wait a second, I got my Heisman.
but he's just not a starting quality quarterback over the long term. And like I said, now they've had 2 weeks to get him ready for this game. But I think the Raiders are playing much better under Antonio Pierce, and I thought this game really should be a pick 'em. I opened at 2. They laid me to 2. They laid me 2.5. I've been at 3. Once I got to 3, I'm actually toggling a little bit back and forth between 2.5 and 3. But I got to tell you, I like the Raiders in this spot.
There'll be Raider support, as there is most every week. Most of the time, we've seen quite a bit of Raider support, and no real surprise about all the purple jerseys, right, Chris? We've seen visiting teams come here in really in droves for every Raider game. So. It's a great it's a great experience too.
Why
With
wouldn't
the
you?
packages here, everybody wants to come to Las Vegas and be part of the Las Vegas experience, and it's not unusual to see the visiting teams represented to the level they are.
Vinny, excuse me.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me ask you something,
Yeah.
Vinny. In your many years behind the counter, did you always get a lot of futures money on Minnesota teams? I don't know if it was just me but I'm getting it here in the South Point too. Over the years, I always get Twins money and I always get Vikings money in the future book.
Okay.
Always.
I can tell you this:
Interesting.
in
Always.
1991, absolutely yes.
Oh man.
Well,
Well,
87 as well.
And 87, but it was not as bad as 90. Well, what made 91 what compounded it was also the Braves.
Right.
There was two teams that went from worst
Well,
to
they're worse
first.
the first those years, right?
Yeah.
And no team had done it in over 100 years, and that year two teams did it from the previous year. But yeah, Chris, there's a lot of support for
Oh,
Minnesota,
always.
but not quite as much as Chicago.
Always love
Chicago,
yeah.
but not. Yeah, it's a great point that you bring up.
Yeah,
I have to say.
I always notice it. A lot of money
lot
on the
of
future
loyal.
book. By the way,
Interesting.
can I tell you something about that 91 year?
Yeah.
That year in 91. I'm like every other guy in this industry, took a total bath
killing.
and going into the World Series. Is there any way out of this? No. It doesn't matter how much we lose, But since I was in the satellite business at the time, so you can't believe how many casinos wanted to get out of the sports book business and came and contacted little old Club Calneva to run their
They didn't want the
sportsbook
risk,
for 'em.
yeah.
So it was one of those deals. Like the short term was horrible. Long term was one of the best things that's ever happened to us.
If the industry was as big as it is today, let's say if it was like even with the Knights when they're in their first year, because with the exposure was that. It would have been even worse. Still to this day, the worst future beating we ever took, I think, because of it was a double-edged sword.
I mean, this would be the equivalent this year if you had the 2024 World Series, the Washington Nationals and the Kansas City Royals. That's essentially what it would be for that 91 series.
Yeah. Well, if next
We
year's
learned a few
Super Bowl
lessons
is the
since
Jets and the Giants.
Well, Chris,
well,
we don't
unless
have
Rodgers comes back.
Chris, we don't have to worry about that at least for another 7 years at least. All right, let's go to Denver and the Chargers. Chris, you're the lone flat 3 left in the market here. There's even some 2.5 starting to pop on LAC.
Yeah.
Denver taking money. The Chargers, it almost went according to plan, what I said on Friday last week with the Chargers. They're going to look awful. They're going to lose to New England, and Brandon Staley's going to get fired. Well, they looked awful, but New England was so impossibly awful that
Brandon Staley's still your guy.
found a way to win 6-0, with New England completing that first stretch of 3 straight games where their defense allowed 10 or less, and they went 0-3 since the 1938 Chicago Cardinals did it, which is fabulous. I will say this, at 3, and it's still the best number on the Broncos right behind us. This is another one. I like the 3-point dog outright. I like the Broncos to win this game at the Chargers and really put the nail in the coffin for LA this year.
Well, I made the number 2.5. I did open 3, and they wound up taking it. I went quickly to 2.5.
Uh-huh.
A couple of my absolute sharpest players are on the Chargers.
Okay, interesting.
On the Chargers here. And, I'm not crazy about them myself. I think I said weeks ago I thought Denver was going to go on a run. They almost pulled it out last week. They easily could have. But I have to respect these guys that bet me the Chargers. And like I said, I made it 2.5. It's not like it's, I'm way off. But like I said, I got to respect the money when these guys came in and played. And that's why I'm at 3. And I'll probably be at 3 for a little while. But, listen, I'm sure guys out there who want to take, they'll come in here and take 3 and lay 11 at 10. Going to be the best number they'll ever see. And I'm sure I'll see plenty of that between now and Sunday.
The Chargers won a game by scoring 6 points last week and lost 2 games this year scoring 36 and 38. Right?
Yeah.
I
didn't check, but I'll believe you.
And I think both of them were at home as well, to the Dolphins and I think was it the Browns? Either way.
Mm-hmm.
Chrissy mentioned the Broncos really were one pass away. I mean, the last pass of the game was intercepted. If it was caught, it was going to be a touchdown for them. Yeah, I think this is going to continue to toggle back and forth, frankly, between folks will lay the 2.5 and take the 3. It's hard to figure. You got a good defense in Denver, and I don't know which Charger team is going to be here. What do you see? I mean, teams love going against this Charger defense. I mean, it's unbelievable how, and they've got some pretty quality defensive players on this team.
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing just how they just get scored on the way they do. Well, so we'll find out.
They haven't been able to put it together since they got rid of Marty Schottenheimer. That's got to be even 15 years ago.
Yeah. Even then, they'd win their 14 games and lose in the first round of the playoffs.
They were 14-2, but they lost to New England. I mean, and they fired Schottenheimer because of that. I don't know.
Let's go to Buffalo and Kansas City. No Isaiah Pacheco for the Chiefs.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a whole boatload of Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I know my friends in Kansas City love to hear that, Chris. It's down to 1. It's not like Buffalo's had the most straightforward week. That whole report with Sean McDermott and questionable motivational tactics, to say the very
Find
least.
a different metaphor. Wow. I would tell you.
Brilliant.
I mean, jeez. But Chris, it's down to 1 with Kansas City a 1-point home favorite, 48.5. Of course, the Chiefs we saw on Sunday night fall short in Green Bay. They're 8-4. They're still going to win the division, but very much looking like they're going to have to at least play a road game in the AFC playoffs for the first time in the Mahomes era.
Yeah, this is a flawed team. We've seen flawed teams win championships, and could they still win a championship? Absolutely. But I opened this 2.5. I thought that was a good number, and it's and the whole time, like my guys would be saying, "Hey, it's down to 2. It's down to hey." When they bet me, I'll move it. Then this morning it was 2, and hey man, it's down to 1.5. Well, when they bet me, I'll move it. Then there goes the 1. I go to 1.5. It's down to 1 and pick. I said when they bet me, well, guess what? They've been betting me. So I mean, right now, if they kick off now, I need the Chiefs pretty good in this game. Not that I particularly like them because I know every game is life and death for the Bills, from now till the end of the season. And I have a lot of respect for this Bills team. I really think they're good. They've lost a lot of close games, and they just put so much on Josh Allen. And I kind of feel for the kid because I think a lot of times it's not necessarily his fault. I mean, it's a team game, but he has made some crucial mistakes. There's no question about it. But if I need the Chiefs here, I'm okay with that.
Two good, terrific quarterbacks here. This is going to be a fun game to watch. Coaching advantage certainly goes to Andy Reid.
I would say so.
And look, if we have to have the Chiefs going for us, that's not a bad position to be in. And I think at some point there'll be Chiefs money.
I think so.
We're never short. Now, I will say this. We've actually needed the Chiefs in more games this year than in previous years with Mahomes, right, Chris?
Yeah.
So if this is another one, so be it. You just book it and you take the action and
like we said,
the final score.
We're here to take bets.
That's it.
And,
there you go, bud. Yeah,
we're going to win about half. We're going to lose about half.
That's right.
That's just the way it goes.
Yeah.
I will say this from the Buffalo side of things, where I don't know if this team is capable of going on a run. I haven't thought it the whole year. I'm not going to change.
I know you've been very anti-Buffalo.
I thought at the beginning of the year, I thought that them and Cincinnati were treated. They should have been flipped how they were treated. I thought the Bengals should have been treated the way Buffalo was, and then vice versa. Of course, that ended up not being correct because the Bengals had a mess and Burrow got hurt and all that fun. But I mean, for Buffalo, this remaining schedule, if they lose this game and they're 6-7. They are playing for their season against Dallas next week, which is not really what you want to be doing. But if they do pull the short upset at Arrowhead on Sunday, all right, you know what? You look at that Dallas game, it's at home. It could be basically a flip with them and Dallas at home. Maybe Dallas, maybe a 1-point road favorite, depending on result on Sunday night.
Depends
against
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia.
Any injuries and how they both come out of the game.
It looks a lot more rosy for Buffalo potentially sneaking in the playoffs and then being a threat as a wild card. But you got to do it first against Kansas City if you want that conversation to be had this upcoming week. And they also have a week in conference record this year, which may play a role
in
tiebreakers.
Tiebreaker.
All right, let's go to Philly and Dallas. Sunday Night Football. NBC with a home run with this matchup being as good as it's going to be on Sunday night. Chris, this is 3.5 now with Dallas laying it. You opened 3. They laid you pretty quickly up to the 3.5. Hasn't moved since. 52 to total. I really do like Dallas in this game. I think at the moment they are the better football team. But as I brought up earlier on the college games, even though I like Mike McCarthy, the play caller, and he looks like he's going to be there after having an appendectomy just 2 days ago.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
I had one of those too. That's a quick turnaround. I got to tell you, those things hurt like hell.
5 days after the surgery, he's going to be there on Sunday night. Can the Philadelphia coaching staff outwit Dallas's coaching staff? That's really what the thing comes in. To me, if they are, this game should be a field goal game and Philly covers. If not, Dallas, who's been just unbelievable at home the last year and a half. Again, I think this is right. I think they should be north of 3 at home with the way these teams have trended the last month.
Well, they have one of my strongest home field advantages, Dallas. But nonetheless, there's no chance I would lay 3.5 in this game. I mean, to me, and I made the number 3, so it's not like I'm going to, rush to the counter to take 3.5. But, I mean, to me, it'd be a take or pass because I think, I thought 3 is the right number. So getting that extra hook, we all know how important that 3 is. I would probably take the 3.5 if I was out there betting. And again, that's one of those when they're going to lay me the 3.5, and if I go into this game needing Philly, then that's just the way it's going to be.
Cowboy. Well, we've been saying all along that there are 2 teams that need to show us they can beat a quality opponent. In the AFC, it's Miami, and they're going to get their chance coming up. In the NFC, it's the Cowboys. Well, here it is. This is their opportunity. They battled pretty good. I mean, they up in Philly not so long ago in that game. By the way, the Eagles are not as healthy as they were today as they were in that game. Dallas, the healthier team here. Now I think a lot of play against the Eagles is based on what happened last week against the Niners and the way that the Cowboys are playing, which is good to their credit. I think we're going to we're going to probably need the Eagles going into this game. This is the primetime game too, so plenty of carryover. This game goes up. The fact that it has not come back down to 3 tells me that that the pros are waiting, thinking that they're going to get more based on exactly what I'm talking about, and because the public I think is going to be all over the Cowboys. But this, by the way, this rodeo week, trust me when I tell you, you saw a lot of purple around town. There's a lot of there's a lot of Dallas Cowboy jerseys running around as well.
Well, we have because this is a big rodeo hotel and everything. By the way, we're over 100% sold. We're hoping for some cancellation, but we do a promotion every year with all the rodeo people. We give and you have to qualify for something or other, and you get a free Super Bowl ticket, a futures bet, $50. 90% is on the Cowboys every single year.
Yep.
Every single year. 90% on the Cowboys.
There you go.
So we start out
know
with
your
that
clientele.
There you go. Know the clientele. An important deal in this business for sure. All right, the Monday night. 2 games at the same time on Monday night.
I don't get this, but okay.
Miami and Tennessee is the one that's first in the rotation number, so we'll hit that one first before we get to Vinny's guy, Tommy DeVito, to close out the show today. Chris, you opened 13 on Miami, bet quickly to 14. Now it's coming back down the ladder, back to the opener at 13, 46 the total. Just Miami's team profile. Tennessee's a bad team. It's a home game. This is the type of team Miami has walloped so far this year.
I keep saying diminishing returns on some of these big numbers, but the returns haven't diminished all that much with Miami. So I'd be careful with this one. But I got to tell you, I did make the number 12. And when they laid me the 13, it was one of my sharp guys that bet me the minus 13. So I said, well, hell, I'm not going to mess around with this. I went to 14 immediately. And they took the 14. They took the 13.5. So I'm back to 13. But like I said, I'm looking for diminishing returns, but that has not happened too much with Miami. I just would be careful laying double digits. It's just so much against my philosophy, but tough to bet Tennessee in this spot too,
especially on the road. Right,
Yeah.
Tennessee on the road, going into this environment. And the Dolphins looking to keep pace for that number one seed in the AFC. So I think there's going to be plenty of Dolphin money here. By the way, we love Monday night doubleheaders. Wish they were staggered. Actually,
yeah, even if it was an hour staggered,
4:30 and 5:30 would have been ideal. Yeah. But again, I'm not going to complain about 2 Thursday night games.
You and I had this conversation on Monday.
Yeah.
And I want to bring Chris in on this. I know you guys don't put up MVP markets here, but I think Tyreek Hill is the MVP of the league at the moment. And if he gets to 2,000 yards, which would be a receiving record in the NFL's history, he means more to this team than anyone else means to their team in the NFL. I know Purdy's the favorite. I get it. I don't even think he's I think he's the third most valuable guy to that offense.
I think second, but okay.
Debo and Christian McCaffrey, to me, I think are more valuable. If you put Sam Darnold in there, I'm not saying the results are the same, but I don't think it's as big of a drop.
Okay.
You take Tyreek Hill out of that offense in Miami, they're still a good offense, but they aren't this high-flying juggernaut that we've seen most of the year. And I don't think Tua is as good as he is without that guy. Also, where the argument would be, why not give it to Tua? No. It's the other way around. The receivers made the quarterback better, not the quarterback making the receiver better. And now, even though the impact wasn't immediate in Kansas City, we're seeing the impact this year on KC going from that outfit they had before the Tyreek Hill trade to, whoa, it took a year, but wow, it's completely different now in Kansas City.
Well, I absolutely would agree on that last point to really make your case.
Yeah.
It did take a year, and there were some other people that they did lose at Kansas City.
Sure.
But with Tyreek Hill, they were, clearly the best offense in
they were
the
unguardable.
Yeah, they're clearly the best. And now, like I said, Miami, I guess they're clearly the best under the right circumstances, playing weak teams. We'll see if that translates to a Super Bowl win. I kind of don't think it will, but I do think it's going to translate to an AFC championship. And I think if they play the Niners, they'll get stopped. But to your point, I think it was an MOP, most outstanding player. I think he would be the winner.
He's going to win Offensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, I think, but MVP, it's
hard to not win as a quarterback.
Yeah, it's just,
Tua's probably,
just quarterback's going to get that nod.
And one other thing with Miami, I had this conversation earlier today with a friend of mine. I don't want to say the window gets a little narrow, but with the way this AFC's played out, Burrow's hurt, the Bills are down, the Chiefs are not the same. A number one seed could be in the grasp for the Miami Dolphins here. They've had one home playoff game in the last 20 years. Only one. Only 2008.
Wow.
Chad Pennington and company got blasted by Baltimore that day after winning the AFC East. You got to take advantage of your windows. If you're Miami, this is the year you got to at least get to the Super Bowl.
Just stay healthy.
Yeah, exactly. You got to get there. If you lose to San Francisco, so be it. But if you're Miami, you got to get there and get to the Super Bowl here just due north of us at Allegiant. All right, last game we get to here today on the Friday. Tommy DeVito and company hosting the Green Bay Packers. Tyrod's back. Who cares? It's DeVito's team. That's now right. With Big Blue. Chris, I think you and I have the same thoughts on this game. The Green Bay Packers are 6.5-point favorites. Last week, they opened as a 6-point underdog at home against Kansas City. Yeah, it was bet down, and they won the game outright. But, Chris, wow, you don't see this ever in the NFL. And here we are with a humongous flip from a home dog to a road favorite, and a significant road favorite at that.
It's only like a 13-point swing,
Wow.
something like that. Well, listen, I do think they deserve to be the favorite.
Oh, of course.
But like I said, 6.5, you're getting up there. Total's 36.5. The kid, DeVito's played pretty good.
He's been fine.
And the other thing, we talk about regression of the mean. We mentioned it a couple of times. Was it not 6 weeks ago that we were talking about Green Bay made such a big mistake drafting Jordan Love?
Oh, yeah.
Now, he's come on, and he's played really well. And, that's part of the growth pattern for any young quarterback turning into a good quarterback. But it wasn't that long ago that I was hearing that, this was like the the message out of Green Bay that, oh, man, they just made a mistake. This kid is definitely not the future. Now he does look like the future. He really does. This is a big test going on the road in New York. I think weather's going to be an issue there. And you're 6.5. It's quite a, again, I don't want to call it quite a mountain to climb. If it was 7, I would say it was a mountain to climb. I mean, you may see 7 on a game like this with, depending on how the public does and how they go to work on this game. But, yeah, I'm with you, Jeff. I think this is, I think you got to bet the dog. And I wouldn't say dog or pass. I says you got to bet the dog here.
Steady diet of Saquon Barkley against the Packers. DeVito, his confidence is growing. He's a fan favorite, which makes it, he's home for this game, which is, be a different story, obviously. I mean, because what this number tells you is, what are they going to be, double digits at home in this game? Probably, I guess, based on what we're seeing here. A little subplot here, too, though. Giant defense playing decent. Martindale and Dable not on the same page. They're at it. It's like Ditka and Buddy Ryan in terms of some discontent there, right? So that bears watching here. I think players rally around their coaches a lot of times, though, in certain circumstances. The Giants have played pretty spirited football in the last couple of weeks. I think there's going to be, even with carryover, I think there's going to be, especially if this game gets to 7. This is one of my don't blink if it happens, because it won't last long.
I am hoping the 7 appears.
There you go.
Because it'll be ahead of the blink if we get a 7 on the Giants hosting Green Bay on Monday night. It looks like the rain will clear by kick.
Oh, really? Okay.
So
it's cutting it pretty close.
Cutting it close, but looks like it'll be okay on Monday night.
Wait, hang on one second. Vinny, is Art Manteris kicking?
I don't know. Yeah, I think he's a game
bit of an inside joke.
Game time decision. The thing is, he is familiar with the surface.
My cousin,
not in a good way.
My cousin tried to kick a field goal there. He wound up in the hospital.
Wait, seriously?
In an ambulance.
It's a long story.
Ruptured Achilles?
No. I don't know how it happened. He wound up hurting himself kicking field goals, and he got a kidney stone.
Wait, what?
A medical mystery.
It's not a lie.
I was there. I
wasn't there. Vinny was.
Right,
I witnessed it.
On that note, I think that's a perfect place for us to say
he's okay now, so we're allowed to laugh at him.
But, Chris, Vinny, always a pleasure. We'll see you again next Friday for a Football Friday at 2:00. I'm Jeff Parles. We're back tomorrow, 8 a.m. Myself, Alex White. A little bit of a different show with just the one college football game, a little more NFL, a big card of college hoops as well.
You got a lot of basketball.
A lot of good ranked matchups tomorrow on the show tomorrow. And also an in-season tournament final. The preview.
Yeah, the Laker game
right
down the street here.
And the Pacers here in Las Vegas. For Vinny Magliulo, for Chris Andrews, and Jerry, Sean, Ryan. Great job as always. We'll see you again tomorrow at 8 a.m. Sports by the Books, the show. South Point Studios, the site.